This is Google Pixel 6a. October last year, Google released Google Pixel 6 and Google Pixel 6 Pro, and over half a year later, at the end of July 2022, they released their younger brother, Pixel 6a. It's basically a downgraded version of Pixel 6, which reflects in the price that is $449 at launch. But for the price, it provides great value in my opinion, and it's available in 3 colors, which is Sage, Chalk, and Charcoal. So let's start with the design. The design follows the same pattern as the rest of the Pixel 6 lineup, with the camera module being a strip on the back of the phone instead of being a rectangular in the corner, and it looks better like this in my opinion. It serves a better practical purpose, so whenever you place it on the hard surface, it's not going to wobble as much, and since it's not sticking out as much as for the Pixel 6 or 6 Pro, you barely see any space between the phone and the flat surface. Now the back of the phone is done with what they call 3D thermoform composite, which when you touch it feels more like plastic or glasstic to me. The sides of the phone are made with metal alloy, and on the front we have Gorilla Glass 3. Now the camera module moved from the top left corner to the middle, and that follows the same design pattern as the rest of the Google 6 series. One thing I'm not a fan though is this thick bezel that probably throws this phone back in time about 4 or 5 years. Now let's go around and see what we have on each side. On the top we have the microphone, on the right side we have our power button and our volume button. On the left side we only have the SIM tray, and at the bottom we have USB Type-C that's in the middle, and on the sides what looks like a dual microphone, it's actually not exactly so, because on the left side we have hidden mic, another mic, and on the right side we have one of the stereo speakers, and the other stereo speaker is in the earpiece. One of the disappointing facts for this generation of A phones is that they removed the 3.5mm jack that used to be on the top for Pixel 5a, but it's not here anymore with Pixel 6a, and I think it's kind of turning into a trend where they go in top to bottom and they kind of keep removing the 3.5mm jack, and I'm pretty sure soon we won't see any 3.5mm jacks on any of the mid-range phones. This phone also has IP67 rating, which means it's dust and water resistant, and you can dunk it into up to 1 meter of water. Now let's talk about the specs. This is the first generation of Google phones that comes with the in-house built Tensor chip, which is the 8-core 5nm processor that was developed together with Samsung, and in terms of architecture it's very similar to Exynos 2100, and in terms of processing power it's also very similar to Exynos 2100 and Snapdragon 888. So it's just a generation behind Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. It also comes paired with Titan M.2, which is an in-house built security chip that serves as an additional layer of security to protect user data. So for $449 you get a good phone with a decent processor that also comes with an extra security chip. The phone comes with a 6 gigs of RAM, which probably nowadays is more like mid-range spec, but it still handles all the tasks pretty well, and you can have a lot of apps that are still sitting in memory, and you can get back to the apps and they're still going to be continuing from where you left it at. And it also handles heavy gaming and heavy apps very easily in my opinion. It's not the best performance, but it's enough for day-to-day use. Now in terms of storage, unfortunately the only storage option for this phone is 128GB, and it doesn't come with SD card slot. For connectivity, the phone is equipped with the latest version of Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, and also with the latest Bluetooth version, which is 5.2. Now in terms of the feel, this phone is a little bit smaller in terms of width and length compared to the previous generation Pixel 5a, but it feels, in my opinion, a little bit bulkier than the previous version, and I think that's mainly due to the fact that the previous generation phone had a rubber coating on top of it, and this one is made with basically what's plastic and metal alloy on the sides. That's why I feel a little bit sturdier. But despite the sturdier feel, it doesn't weigh that much. It only weighs in at about 178 grams. Now let's talk about the screen. It's a 6.1-inch display with a resolution of 1080 by 2400 or Full HD+. And the aspect ratio on the screen is 9:20. So whenever you're watching movies or you're watching YouTube and you have it in the landscape mode, you're gonna see some black bars on the sides. and you can do pinch to zoom, and then it's gonna crop the top and the bottom, so you kind of have to sacrifice here. The refresh rate on this phone is 60 Hz, so it's not the best refresh rate, especially if you're used to 90 Hz or 120 Hz, but the OS, which is close to the native Android OS, kind of compensates for that with the smoothness that it provides. So I don't feel much difference between my 120 Hz refresh rate and this 60 Hz, but you can see a little bit of jitter, but it's not too bad at all, and it's still very smooth and snappy experience in my opinion. The screen is made with Gorilla Glass 3, so it's not the latest gen of Gorilla Glass, but it's still a very sturdy display and it's scratch resistant, but even then you can still get some scratches if you're like holding it in your pocket with your keys, or you're gonna try to scratch it with some other heavy materials. But other than that, it's pretty sturdy display. The colors look very good on this screen. I enjoyed consuming content on it, and I gotta say that the contrast ratio is really good as well, because the blacks look very black and the whites look very white, so you're gonna enjoy this display, especially for the price that it's going for. And just like the previous gen Pixel 5a, this Pixel 6a is also providing you with the native, or almost close to the native Android OS as possible. That way you're getting a very smooth experience using the app. And if you ask me which one is a little bit smoother, I would probably think that Pixel 5a just a tiny bit smoother, but that's mainly because it was running on Snapdragon 765G and maybe they need a little bit of adjustments, but I can barely tell the difference, honestly. It's just by that tiny margin. But still, the phone feels very snappy, very smooth. There is no problem at all while browsing or switching the apps. And I like it because that's what you expect from the phone, especially when you're using it for day-to-day activities such as browsing the internet, using social media apps, sending texts, or making phone calls. Now, in terms of cameras, there are two cameras on the back, and these are the same cameras that Google has been using for years now. And the first one is wide, 12.2 megapixel with 1.7 aperture and dual pixel autofocus camera, and the second one is 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with 2.2 aperture and 114 degree wide angle. And both of the cameras come with both optical and electronic image stabilization. And just like the previous generation of Pixel phones, this camera is also one of the best cameras in the price category. It also makes the images look very sharp because of the amount of processing that Google puts into it. And I gotta say, I really enjoy the photos taken with this phone. And the colors that come out of the picture are really close to the human eye color reproduction. But I gotta say that this year it got just a tiny bit warmer, but this year Google actually offered temperature control, so you can adjust the temperature as you like, which wasn't there on Pixel 5a. But I gotta say that the pictures that come out of this still have a little bit of noise and shadows and dark areas, independent of the light source, whether it's a natural light or an artificial light. But overall, it's still a great camera to take pictures with. And if you're doing casual photography, or maybe you just like to snap pictures for your social media, then this is going to be a perfect phone, especially for the price. There's still a bunch of edit tools available for this phone, just like in the previous generation of Pixel 5a. You have Magic Eraser to remove unwanted objects from your picture. You have Key Light to put a light at a certain point either on your face. It's a great set of features. And you also get the night mode, which pumps up the light in the shadows. Now, the front-facing camera is 8 megapixel camera with fixed focus, so it's gonna be a decent camera. It's not the best by any means, but it still takes decent pictures, especially for social media. Now, in terms of video recording, the rear cameras support up to 4K and 60 frames per second, slow motion up to 240 frames per second, and 4K time-lapse with stabilization. This is probably one of my favorite cameras because there are 4 stabilization options available, which is standard for slight movement, then you have locked for faraway shots, you have active for heavy movement, and one of my favorite ones, which is the cinematic, that lets you take nice and smooth cinematic pan without using a gimbal. And I gotta say that this cinematic video stabilization option is really, really nice, and I think that even without gimbal, you can still take decent cinematic pans with this, and probably you won't even be able to tell the difference between one with the gimbal and the one taken with the stabilization option on this Pixel phone. So overall, I think it's a really good phone for the price, for only $449, and probably right now you can get it cheaper for about $400. And if you need a daily driver that you can use to browse internet, you can use social media apps, snap some pictures, this is probably one of the best phones for the money that you can get. And especially when it comes with this snappy Google UI that gets the latest updates all the time. And right now I already have an update available for Android 13, which I'm gonna check it out, and I'm gonna probably record my next video about Android 13. Now in terms of battery life, this phone is packed with 4,410 mAh battery, and Google claims that it can last you over 24 hours. And from what I tested, I charged it at about 2 p.m. and I was just doing browsing, played a game for maybe like half an hour or so, and just used to scroll. And the next day at 2 o'clock, after 24 hours, it was only down like 23 or something percent. So it's pretty good. I didn't put a heavy load on it. I didn't use it for heavy tasks, and I didn't have the SIM card, but still, even without the SIM card and sending texts and making calls, it lasted a long period of time in my opinion. And I think if you're gonna use it day to day, every day as your main driver, then it's probably gonna last you well over 24 hours in my opinion. Google also claims that they have fast charging, but the charger on this phone is actually 18-watt charging, so it does a decent job, and it takes about an hour and maybe 20 minutes or so to charge. I didn't exactly measure, but I think that's what it took, about 1 hour and 20 minutes. But of course it's nothing compared to some other phones on the market, like my Realme phone charges in like half an hour, so I don't consider this fast charging, but still 1 hour and 20 minutes is not bad, especially with a phone that can last you over a day. And that was it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up to help YouTube algorithm, and subscribe for more. In the next video, I'm probably going to review Android 13, and if you want to see that, hit notification bell to get notified whenever I release the new video. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you all guys in the next one. Bye!